see you ain't got mixed emotions about bringing a woman to a rope.
By woman, you mean her? No, I do not have mixed emotions.
So you taking her in the Red Rock to hang?
You bet.
You gonna wait around and watch it?
Oh, you know I am. I want to hear her neck snap with my own two ears. You never wait to watch them hang?
My bound is never hang, because I never bring him in alive.
Never.
Never, ever. We talked about this in Chattanooga. Bringing desperate men in alive is a good way to get yourself dead.
Can't catch me sleeping if I don't close my eyes.
I don't want to work that hard.
No one said the job's supposed to be easy.
No one said it's supposed to be that hard, neither. It's that little lady. That's why they call him the hangman. When the handbill says dead or alive, the rest of us shoot you in the back up on top of a perch somewhere and bring you in dead over a saddle. But when John Roof, the hangman, catches you, you don't dive no bullet in the back. Mm-mm. When the hangman catches you, you hang.
Hi everybody, I'm Peter Travers and welcome to Popcorn, where we tell you what is happening at the movies. And there's a happening out there now called The Hateful Eight. It is written and directed, and God knows what else he did, by the guy who has the creative motor that runs hottest in show business. I don't know anybody that can touch you for that, Quentin.
Oh, what a lovely compliment. Thank you so much, Mr.
Welcome. There you
so
go.
much.
There you go. All right, we're done. So let's get to it.
Sure.
The Hateful Eight. What inspires it? What makes you say, I'm going to make this Western? This is what I'm going to do.
As much as I've been inspired by other movies, this one, in a weird way, was more inspired by a lot of the Western episodic TV shows of the 60s. In particular, shows like The Virginian and Bonanza and Big Valley and stuff like that. And the episodes I found myself gravitating towards and watching are the ones that had really cool guest stars on it. So like a Robert Culp or a James Coburn or a Charles Bronson. They all did, Vic Morrow, people like that. And I noticed that if Robert Culp was on an episode of The Virginian, the story was about him. It was about Robert Culp's character. It wasn't about James Drury. It wasn't about Doug McClure. They were in the episode, but the story was about Robert Culp. And he would come into town, and he'd be this stranger. You didn't know who he was, and you still didn't know who he was for a while. But then usually some past was revealed about the character, and you didn't know how true it was or how not true it was. And you didn't know if the character was a good guy or a bad guy. And it wasn't usually revealed until towards the end. And there was a moral ambiguity about the character. You didn't know at the end of that Virginian episode if Doug McClure and Robert Culp would be friends or if Doug McClure would end up killing him at the end of the episode. And I thought that was a very interesting place to jump off for a character. And I go, what if I did a movie starring nothing but those guys?
Those guys.
Take 8 of those guys that you're not quite sure about, and there's some moral ambiguity about them, and they all have a past that kind of taints them to some degree or another.
Yeah, you've done the good, the bad, and the ugly without the good.
Without the good.
Without the good. They're
exactly,
gone.
yeah. And then trapping those characters together in one room and just having them hash it out.
So they are hateful.
Oh, they are definitely hateful. I mean, I think some are slightly more likable than others, but nevertheless, they are hateful. And there is no good guy. There is no hero. There is no moral center for the audience to gravitate towards. Now, I think you do gravitate towards some of them, but that's all on you. Mm-hmm. And I don't make it easy for you, but I think it happens nevertheless.
Yeah, just because I might say Daisy Darmague is somebody I gravitate towards.
Yeah, absolutely.
You might not say it. Somebody else would say
something.
something.
No, and what's neat about that, though, is if John Ruth is your character, or if Daisy Darmague is your character, or if Chris Mannix is your character. Well, if 3 different people have those 3 different choices, all 3 of you have had 3 slightly different viewing experiences, depending on the character that you gravitated towards.
Talk a little about these characters and these actors, because this is an amazing group that you put together in here, starting with Sam Jackson.
Well, you know, Sam Jackson has appeared in probably in one degree or another in more of my movies than any other actor. And there's really nobody who says my dialogue the way Sam Jackson does. I think we have one of the most fruitful and rewarding relationships between actor and director in cinema. As much as it's fun to work with him as a director, I really do think it's the way he interprets my material as a writer that really is the key to our relationship. there's an aspect to my dialogue where it's not poetry, but there's a poetic quality to it. It's not.
It can be musical.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm not writing songs, but there is a musical quality to it. It's not stand-up comedy, but there is a comedic rhythm to it. And he gets all those notes. He turns it into the poetry. He turns it into the music. He turns it into the almost Richard Pryor routines, all right, that is required of him in a way that nobody else does.
And what are you saying about race when you use Sam Jackson? You used him in Django in a really interesting way.
Yeah, I think so too.
When he was here, I was asking him about that because that character is truly hateful.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Oh, he absolutely is. I actually remember after he read the script, he thought I was going to write the part of Django for him, and I think maybe I even half hinted that that's what I was going to do early on in the beginning, but then the character just became younger as I was writing it. So I called him up on the phone and I go, okay, so you read it, huh? Yeah, I read it. I go, okay, so I think you kind of realize that you might be a little too old to play Django. Yeah, I kind of noticed that. So what do you think about Steven, playing Steven? Steven? You mean, what do I think about playing the most despicable black SOB in the history of cinema? Yeah, I'm all good with that. I'm already in it, man. I want to do my hair this way, and I want to do this and that and the other. I'm already in it.
So you two have that connection in terms of doing that.
Yeah.
But the question of race, which you bring up so strongly in Django, is also here, but a little more subtextually than it was there.
I mean, it wasn't my intention to, I'm going to really deal with racial matters of today, but via the context of this Western that takes place 150 years ago. But in the course of writing it, it just started kind of coming out. And I remember after the Walton Goggins character and the Sam Jackson character have their big political debate in the Stagecoach, once it was over, I was actually surprised at how, because I've always felt that the Confederacy is like an American version of the Nazis or the Cossacks. Yet, I try not to judge my characters that way. So I was actually even surprised that Chris Maddox ended up coming up with some eloquent defense, for the Confederacy to some degree or another. And I was actually, because that's not how I feel. So literally, when I wrote his defense, I was like kind of surprised and shocked that I actually wrote something that I didn't think was contemptible about this character that I thought was contemptible, at least at that point in the story. And I was like, oh, wow. And then it hit me, wow, this is almost kind of a blue state, red state Western, which is very reflective of our time right now. And a lot of prognosticators have said that we are living in a time that's probably the most divided time in America's history since the Civil War and the post-Civil War period. But the interesting thing about that, and we can get more back into the race, and I'm happy to, but an interesting thing about that, and as far as cinema is concerned, the Western has always been a really interesting genre I think there's no other genre that reflects the decade in which it was made more than the Westerns made during particular decades. And
like The Searchers.
Yeah, The Searchers. Yeah. Well, a good example is the 50s, because probably the time when the Westerns were the most popular. They reflected an Eisenhower ideal of America. They reflected a perceived American exceptionalism. All right, having won the World War II, and even the prosperity of America at that time. And they took Western heroes and built them up as demigods, whether it be even outlaws like Bully the Kid or Jesse James and the stories that were told at that period of time. And then obviously characters like Buffalo Bill or Wyatt Earp. But then if you look at the Westerns of the 70s and the very, very late 60s, that was a very cynical time in America, and America had lost trust in itself and had lost trust in its heroes. And actually, the cynicism of movies back then actually confirmed Americans' right to feel cynical about their time period. And the Westerns reflected that. And if you just, look no further than Tyrone Power's Jesse James compared to Robert Duvall's Jesse James in the Great Northfield, Minnesota Raid, or Burt Lancaster's Wyatt Earp in Gunfight at the OK Corral compared to Harris Yulin's Wyatt Earp in Doc. And it's just a very cynical time. And that reflected the time. And without really trying to, I think I ended up tapping into that with the Hateful Eight.
The other thing that's happening too, there's many things happening in it, but Jennifer Jason Leigh's character is basically the only major female character in this movie. And she comes in there and we don't know what to think about it. We are confused about it.
Yeah.
But she gets punched around, she gets hit a lot. So some people have said, well, why are you doing that? Why are you doing it? What is it that made you so interested in Daisy?
Well, part of the way that the story works with these 8 characters is, and it's actually part of, I think, even the driving motor of the movie, is that, and even almost a theory I have when it comes to suspense, at least in my movies, is the threat of violence is hanging over all the characters. And you know what's going to happen. You just don't know when, and you don't know who, and you don't know how. But you know it's going to be bad, and it's going to be brutal. And the idea that I would subject 7 of my characters to that, but wouldn't subject the 8th character to that because she's a woman is just absolutely, utterly ridiculous. That, and not only is it ridiculous, it is actually, to me, offensive to a woman's right to play any kind of character she wants. My conception of starting her off is that she was like a Manson girl out west. She was Susan Atkins. And I don't think, and even though it's not clear exactly what Daisy did, the why there's a $10,000 bounty on her head, and she's wanted for murder, and they're going to hang her in the town of Red Rock, but I don't think there's any doubt that she's guilty. But the thing about it is, your viewpoint is supposed to change. There are moments early on in the movie where John Ruth, the character Kurt Russell plays, who's the bounty hunter who's taking her to the hangman's rope, he's very brutal to her right at the beginning of the movie. And it's shocking to the audience. And it's meant to shock the audience. It's meant to, it's not played for laughs. It's played for harshness. And that first time he hits her with the butt of that gun, you feel a ripple go through the audience about how brutal he is towards her. And you're meant to think that John Ruth is a brutal bastard, that he would do that. And you almost can't help but be on her side to some degree or another after she gets that treatment. Now, as you watch the movie and more aspects about his character and her character are revealed, maybe you feel differently about it. Maybe you don't. But there's also weird dichotomies going on. On the other hand, John Ruth is a bounty hunter, and she's wanted dead or alive. He could shoot her at any time he wants. And every other character in the movie makes it clear that's exactly what they would do. They would just shoot her ass dead and attach her to the roof of the stagecoach with the other dead bodies that are up there, and that would be that. So it's not black and white. It's not really clear.
I've heard you're saying you got 10 movies in you, and this is it after 10?
That's kind of...
What are you talking about, Quentin?
Well, it's kind of the idea. I mean, look, I'll give myself a little wiggle room. It could be 11, but I doubt it's going to be. But I doubt it's going to be 12 or 13 or 14. You know, I don't want to be a director that just directs because he doesn't know anything else to do, and he needs to be on the set, or he needs the attention, and I'm working to diminishing capabilities, diminishing talent, diminishing focus.
I don't see any evidence of that.
Well, I'm still a young man, all right? There better not be any evidence.
2 movies left, maybe 3. That's not enough.
Yeah, but I mean, but almost the very thing you said about, wow, it's a real exciting aspect that when you come out with a movie. Well, I don't want to be doing this when it becomes a more passé thing. And I'm not talking about other directors. They can do what they want, and I feel a little foolish talking about stuff like that standing next to Ridley Scott at some round table, all right, when he's doing tremendous work. At the same time, I do like the idea of 10 and done. I do like the idea of not passing over into another period of my career per se due to age and longevity and length. I like the idea that there is an umbilical cord connected to my first film all the way to my last, and then that is the body of work, because I am about my filmography. And frankly, I do feel that a bad film on the filmography affects good films.
But do you feel that about your films? Are you feeling
No, I don't
bad
feel
about
that. No, I don't
because
feel
you're
that
feeling
way.
a good
Oh, I'm
umbilical
good.
cord line.
I'm good right now. I want to keep good right now. And I do like the idea of, leaving you wanting a little bit more rather than...
What are you going to be doing, Quentin?
Well, I'm a writer.
So you could write. You could write.
Absolutely. I can write plays. I could write plays and direct plays. And I might do that before we get to number 10. I can write novels.
This could be a play.
I might very well turn it into
Reservoir
a play.
Dogs could be a play.
I might very well turn that into a
into
play.
yeah.
And I might write a new play sometime. But write novels, write cinema books. I could totally do that. I mean, I think ever since Kill Bill, there has been a veer towards the more literary when it comes to my work. And, also, this is a tremendous amount of focus to put a career in movies to be the most important thing in your life, and everything else is secondary, including wives, including children.
You don't have those two things.
I don't, because I've created a world where this is what I'm doing. This is the
So
time
maybe
to
there'll
do
be
it.
room for those?
After that period of time, yeah. And, and by the way, it's not, it's not a piddling little appearance. I mean, it's like, by that period of time, the way it usually takes me to make a movie, I would be 60, more or less. All right, there would be 10 films, or that would be about 30 years as far as a career. Well, that's a wonderful career, especially if I can keep it up to the level that I've been working at. And I do like the idea of, like I said, leaving you wanting a little bit more.
They're going to pull you out of here. So we end always in song. Last time you sang for me, it was a song from Inglourious Basterds called The Man in the Big Sombrero.
The Man in the Big Sombrero,
Man in the Big Sombrero, we did that. Now you have a Roy Orbison song in this, you have other things. Is there something in your head you can do for me?
I thought you were going to sing the song.
I'll sing it with you if you do it. I don't sing it.
Okay.
I guessed. You quizzed me. You said you wouldn't sing that song for me unless I could tell you what movie it was from. I told you it was Hi Diddle Diddle with Adolphe Menjou. June Havoc sang it in the movie, so you were forced to do it.
That was pretty impressive.
It was impressive, yes.
Okay, I will. I'll sing the. Actually, okay, I will do the Roy Orbison song. Listen to me, people. Try to understand. You may be a soldier, woman, child, or man, but there won't be many coming home. No, there won't be many coming home. There may be 20, maybe 10, maybe none, but there won't be many coming home.
Whoa, let Star Wars beat that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, forget that.
American Idol, here I come.
Here he comes. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Quentin. That was great.
Always a pleasure.
That was great.